Yo guys, what is up? Maxroll Diablo 4 video, and today we're going over my updated endgame Lightning Storm. Now I've done a few variations of Lightning Storm each season. Last season was Lycanvolt 2.0. I'm going to be dubbing this Lycanvolt 3.0. And the reason the build is changing is one, we have the new gloves. Two, the priority of this season is a bit different. Last season, Lycanvolt, when I made it, was doing companions with Grizzly Rage. We were pairing the best of both worlds with the Grizzly Rage and the Spirit and all of that, with also the companions and the raw damage that granted. However, the build was very glass cannony, and that was fine because we were just running Nightmare Dungeons. Nightmare Dungeons, you could space yourself out from enemies. Well, now, the only thing that you're really running this season, for the most part, besides the bosses, is the vaults. And in the vaults, there's a final room where you basically just get clustered by tons of enemies. You don't have real space. And so this build, this version, is going to be dealing tons and tons of damage. Our lightning storms are hitting for more than 1 million, but we're also very tanky. We've got max armor, we've got max resistances, we've got tons of HP, and the build should feel very comfy, as well as having tons of spirit generation. I hope you guys enjoy the breakdown. We're going to be covering not only the build, but also a lot of just like little things that you need to know about playing Lightning Storm to the fullest its potential. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let's get right into it. Real quick before we dive into the breakdown, I am currently live on Twitch. As you can see in the corner is the time left on the stream at the moment. We are doing a birthday subathon, and any gifted subs, bits, anything adds to the time on the clock. And I've got tons of prizes from a bunch of different companies, custom swag to give away, and a whole lot more. So if you're interested in hanging out, talking about Druid and winning some cool prizes, or entering into win some cool prizes, make sure to drop by the Twitch. And with that, let's get into it. So the very first thing I want to talk about is bossing. Now, Lightning Storm has notoriously been relatively weak when it comes to bossing in previous seasons. It's always been a fantastic AoE Nightmare Dungeon farmer. However, bossing can be a bit tricky. Now, playing Lightning Storm for bossing, you need to do a little trick that I want to talk about and explain and go over our rotation for the first thing in this video, and then we'll get into the gear and stuff later. So what I've got here on screen to show you is just a little demonstration, and we're going to talk about holding stacks of Lightning Storm. Now, Lightning Storm, when you click it down and you hold it, you're going to build lightning strikes. The longer you hold it, it'll get to max strikes, and then if you walk around and then you hold the button, it'll start casting for max strikes if you cast it again within the certain time limit. However, for bossing, you do not actually want to hold Lightning Storm down. If you can avoid it, tapping Lightning Storm, even for like, I tap Lightning Storm for elites, I tap Lightning Storm for bosses, and the reason for that is, number one, if you're going to tap it, you can actually increase the cast speed, or the amounts of lightning that you're causing per second. When you're holding it, it has a set cast speed, and increasing your attack speed doesn't actually increase how fast Lightning Storm casts. If you're tapping it, you can make it go faster. It also is going to be proccing our Keystone passive, which is Nature's Fury, more often because we're casting more times per second. But the real key to Lightning Storming on bosses is to not get it to max stacks. So if we get Lightning Storm to max stacks, it's going to call down 5 Lightning Storms, right? At 5 Lightning Storms, they're going to be a lot of lightning, but they're hitting in a big AoE. For bossing, we don't want that, because even though there's more lightning storms, the AI of the lightning storms will hit all around the boss. They won't actually hit the boss. So the thing that I do for bossing is I hold it down for like about a second. With the aesthetic wraps, your lightning storm grows twice as fast, so you have to hold it down for half as much time. So what you'll see me do here in this boss kill is I'm going to start very first with Petrify. Petrify is going to increase our damage, our crit damage, by 50%. This is a crit damage build, massive multiplier. The next thing that I'm going to do is call down Ravens. Ravens is a crit chance percent increase that is 6 seconds long. And then I'm going to Poison Creeper, or at least I should do this rotation. Poison Creeper is 3 seconds. So the one with the shortest duration we're going to do last. So here, boss, I'm going to Petrify. Then I'm going to, well, I should have bird or ravens first and then poison creeper, but I poison creeper, ravens. This is going to give us 85% crit chance on this build. We're at 85% crit chance, and then I'm going to hold down my lightning storm. As soon as I've held it and I see the 3 lightning bolts, then I'm going to start tapping, and I'm just spamming tap as fast as I can go. And as you can see right there, my final lightning storm honor hit for about 2 million, it looked like. We're hitting 1.9 millions. We got a 2 million lightning storm. So we're doing a ton of damage on this build, and we've got a ton of bossing. However, the bossing is going to depend, one, on your rotation, and two, if you're taking advantage of tapping lightning storm as fast as possible. And so that is the very first thing I wanted to cover in this video. The next thing to talk about is our Seneschal Construct. Now, this pet is ranking up faster than it was at the start of the season. Blizzard buffed it. However, it's still not ranking up that quickly. Me personally, I just hit 100, and my resource support is still rank 4. I'm going to have even less resource issues than I am right now, and I'm not having resource issues at the moment. But just note that there are some things in my build that I have done to give me even more resource regeneration while my resource support is low. I think at rank 10, this is going to be giving me like 15 resource every time that Tempest attacks, which is like every second or two. So this is an absurd amount of resource gain. You shouldn't really need any other resource gaining things besides some things to gain like some efficiency and obviously our Lust for Carnage. Every time we crit, we're going to get resource. But just note that resource support is really important. The other thing that's really nice is arcing support so that our Tempest hits more enemies, and then efficiency support. This build is all about crit chance. And one of the biggest differences you're going to see between this version and the version that I was showing you before is you're going to need a lot of crit chance to transition to this version, which we'll go over in a second. Next up, we're using Flash of Adrenaline. It's going to give me a damage multiplier, tactical support to reduce the cooldown of that, safeguard support to give me even more DR when this is proccing, and duration support to give this damage multiplier even more duration. I do not have the Evernight or the Genesis. Obviously, if I had these things, I'd be using them. They're incredibly strong, and they're definitely wishlist items, but note that I do not have them at the time. Now let's get into our gear specifics. The one thing I forgot to mention that I really stressed in my last video was using poison support. Now, one of the big swaps that you can do once you get the Tempest Roar is get rid of poison support. The reason for that is because once you're using a Tempest Roar, then your Lightning Storm gets the Werewolf tag, and then every time it crits, we're going to be getting poison from Toxic Claws. Now, our Lightning Storm, whenever it crits, causes poison, and that gives us free Envenom on everything. When we are human Lightning Storm, we can't take advantage of Toxic Claws because Lightning Storm is not a werewolf skill yet, so you can remove poison support, put a point into Toxic Claws, and then you're going to have Envenom, this massive damage multiplier on all of your hits because everything will be getting poisoned from your Lightning Storm. Now for our gear, I am using a Tempest Roar. This is the end game variant of the build. If you do not have a Tempest Roar, I have a whole Paragon board and setup and a previous video without Tempest Roar. And Human Lightning Storm this season is actually really good. It's way better than I thought it would be, particularly due to the new gloves. Just absolutely fantastic. And it doesn't have spirit issues, or as not nearly as much as I thought it would, especially with this new companion. Now, Tempest Roar, must-have helmet. Then for your chest piece, after you're doing anywhere higher, if you're doing a Nightmare Dungeon that is higher than 80, I would not wear Mad Wolf's Glee. Mad Wolf's Glee is just not worth it for the loss of survivability. For bossing, if you're going to do Lilith, you're going to do Duriel, slap on Mad Wolf's Glee. Those guys don't even hit that hard, and then you can do even more damage. When I'm not using the Mad Wolf's Glee, I'm using as much DR as I can possibly get. This is damage reduction, close, poison, fortified, damage reduction while shapeshifted with more max life. It's not a max roll item power or anything, but this is a lot of survivability for us, especially in those vaults when you're going to be surrounded by tough enemies. Next up, the aesthetic wraps. These drop from the Beast in Ice. They are a must-have. Now, in terms of priority, what are you looking for on these gloves? Obviously, Ranks of Lightning Storm is really important. I don't care as much about Ranks of Defiance. It's still a damage multiplier, but the crit chance is massive. The lucky hit is massive, and obviously if you can get your Lightning Storm to deal additional bonus damage multiplier, that's really nice. But having the lucky hit and the crit chance will make the build function better. So those are like big priority stats for me, and then everything else is just more damage. But you kind of want the crit chance and the lucky hit to get the build really cooking. Next up, for our pants, I'm wearing max life, damage reduction from close, poison, damage reduction while injured. I actually, as I'm recording this, realized that I need to roll that damage reduction while injured off to another DR. Armor would be, actually, I don't need any more armor, so just another DR. Most likely damage reduction from poisoned enemies or distant would be great here. And then I'm using the new Juggernaut aspect. Now, the Juggernaut aspect changes everything for defense because it is so unbelievably strong. It's always active, so it's going to give you way more reliable armor versus disobedience. You need to stack up. If you've ever played a disobedience build, sometimes you walk into a fight that's already happening, or you're walking into a room and you get one shot by a projectile coming through, and that's because you're sitting at 66% less armor. So Juggernaut is massive for us. Yeah, as you can see, I'm still missing 1,000 armor, and we are basically at armor cap. As you can see, I don't have full armor when I'm a human, but as soon as I shapeshift into a werewolf, where I'm at, I'm basically sitting at armor cap, or we are armored capped as soon as I'm in a werewolf form. So if I can get a little bit more armor, it'd be more comfy when I'm in human form, but I'm hardly ever in human form. So damage reduction, really great here, and max life as well. Next up on your boots, movement speed, total armor while in werewolf form, and double resistances. You do not need spirit cost. You do not need movement speed after killing an elite. This is like the must-have boots. The resistances will help you so much out in filling out your resistances. The total armor while in werewolf form will allow you to get rid of the disobedience. As soon as you get these armor rolls, you can take off a disobedience. You no longer need it. And then for your weapon, this is where things are going to get a little bit confusing. So for the weapon, there's really like two kind of big options. You can go one-hander, which at the moment, I do think is going to be a little bit better. One-hander and a totem, you'll get more lucky hit, you'll get more crit chance. You can put the shepherd aspect on your totem. You're going to get an extra aspect slot, which you can go for the overload aspect for extra help with single target. I currently am using a two-hander, just what I've gotten the best roll on, and I'm making do with it. So if you get a two-hander, you can make it work, and I will have a build planner if you're looking for what you would want to use with a one-hander. But on your weapon, the most important things that you can get is close distance. Close distance, all stats, willpower. I have all stats crit damage. Unfortunately, not the perfect weapon. And ideally, I think it'd be really great to get the damage to healthy enemies on an axe. I just happen to have it on a staff. I don't think this matters as much, but you're going to be hitting really hard with lightning storms, and the damage to healthy will help you one-shot them with all of those lightning storms. The reason close and distant is so important, no, those don't stack, but they do give you a multiplier in your Thunderstruck board. I am currently sitting at 60% with Thunderstruck. Storm skills deal increased damage equal to 20% of your damage versus close and damage versus distant bonuses. This is a free 60% damage multiplier versus everything else on my weapon is additive. So these are multiplicative, close distance, everything else is additive. If I got crit damage, if I got crit damage with lightning skills, all those things are nice looking, but they're not multiplicative, they're additive, and that's why close and distant is the most important thing you can possibly get. And then on our weapon, if you're using a one-hander, you're going to be putting any of these aspects. If you're using a two-hander, I recommend the Shepherd aspect. It's going to give you a massive damage multiplier for all of your companions. At 20%, or you're going to have 180% damage multiplier for Lightning Storm, which is just ridiculous because you're going to get 9 companions when you pair that with the aspect that grants you 1 additional companion. On your necklace, you're looking for 2 things: Ranks of Envenom and Spirit Cost Reduction. Spirit Cost is a great place to have it on your necklace. We do not have space for it on our boots, so I really like having it on my necklace. If you can get armor while in werewolf form, or just percent armor, that's great. DR is great. Cooldown's really good. I've got movement speed, damage reduction while fortified. By the way, all of the gear that I'm wearing in this video has dropped for me. This is all gear that I've farmed up myself. Actually, these boots were gifted to me, but everything else I've farmed. So I haven't like spent any money or bought any things off the marketplace. These are all like farmed drops and rolls. For my rings, God Roll ring is crit chance, lucky hit, close distant. We already went over why close distant is important. Lucky hit is really nice quality of life, and crit chance is must have. You need to understand that with this build, the more crit chance that you have, the more resource generation you have. If you are struggling with resource generation, go to your crit chance, take a peek at it. I'm sitting at 45% crit chance flat, right? This is in town, not doing anything. If I activate my Poison Creeper, I'm going to go to 65%. With this, I'm going to 73% with my Ravens activating, so now I'm at 73%. With our Companion, with Efficiency support, at the moment, I'm going up to 84% crit chance. This build will very easily hit like 85% crit chance. pretty easily, and that's why we don't need Earth and Might anymore for this build. One of the big transitions and why the human form was using Earth and Might, and while the endgame version isn't using Earth and Might, is at this point in the endgame, you're going to want to look for good rolls of crit chance. I got a max roll here, almost a max roll here, and a max roll of crit chance here. You're trying to get as much crit chance as possible because it'll help you with your spirit cost, your damage, because when you're critting, you're going to deal double damage, but also with Lust for Carnage. Every time you critically strike, you're going to get 2 spirit back. So the more crit chance you have, the more spirit you're going to get back. And lastly, for the ring aspects, I've got Lightning Dancer on and Aspect of the Stampede for the total of 9 companions. The actual damage multiplier here doesn't matter at all. We're not caring about our companion damage. We just want more companions for the larger multiplier from Shepherds. I've got 744 willpower. That is something I really want to work on once I get a better weapon that's got willpower roll on it. I'm maxed out on all of my resistances fairly easily, not taking any potion right now to like fake that. I've got 471% crit damage. That's with my glyphs all being around level 15 or 16. And my crit chance is 45. Those are the big stats that we're looking for with this build. Then you're also going to want to make sure that your close and distant are starting to stack up as well. For our spirit boons, wariness, 10% reduced damage from elites, scythe talons for more crit chance, and avian wrath for more crit damage. If you're feeling squishy, you can go iron feather. I'm currently sitting at 15.7k life, which is pretty comfy, but if we go iron feather, that gets me to about 18k. If I was going for life rolls on my rings, I could get that even higher, which would be really, really nice, but feeling pretty comfy, not dying on Nightmare 100 at the moment, so Scythe Talons it is for me. For your spirit boons, if you're having energy issues, you can go energize. I don't think this is worth. You get more resets on your companion skills with Pack Leader, which is pretty nice. I feel like I have these up all the time enough, so I'm going bolster. I'm using the retaliation aspect, so the more fortify I have, the more damage that I get to do. So this is not only damage for us, but it's also defense, and it synergizes very well with us popping Earth and Bulwark pretty often, so that we get even more survivability. For your spirit boons, this I'm actually a bit torn on. I was originally using Overload. Overload is really nice. If you're doing well on your crit chance, you could move Scythe Talons and go Overload plus Calm Before the Storm. For this variant of the build, or for this version, I'm going to recommend Calm Before the Storm. The reason for that is Petrify is going to be a source of spirit for us, but it's also going to be one of our biggest damage multipliers. It synergizes with crit builds. This is very much a crit build. And so the more uptime on Petrify, the more crowd control that we have, the more spirit that we're going to be getting, and the more damage we get to deal. And I think that outweighs Overload a little bit. Once again, you could move these Scythe Talons to Overload if you wanted to. For our skill tree, we're not going to be using a basic skill. You just don't need one. So 2 points wherever you want to get down to Lightning Storm. For Lightning Storm, I like Primal Lightning Storm. We're going to want the Immobilize from Lightning Storm. It's going to give us massive damage multipliers, which we'll talk about in a second. And keeping enemies at bay is very nice for this build. You could go Raging Lightning Storm, just don't think it's really necessary, to be honest. We've already got enough Lightning Storms coming out of the sky. Wild Impulses gives us another damage multiplier. I've got 2 points into Predatory Instinct, just a little bit of crit chance. I'm usually shotgunning bosses like Lilith and Duriel. I'm standing basically point blank to them a lot of the times, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. So Predatory Instinct, a little bit more crit chance for me. Earth and Bulwark is going to give me the Fortify and Unstoppable. Earth and Bulwark is really, really nice. I forgot to mention in the gear parts, when I'm doing bossing, I put on Tibalt's Will. Tibalt's Will is going to give you that damage multiplier whenever you proc Earth and Bulwark, and then it also is going to give you the Spirit back, which is really nice. If you're ever low on Spirit, you just pop Earth and Bulwark, damage multiplier, Spirit back. The reason I do not use this for Nightmare Dungeons is, one, because I want to be tanky as possible, and two, it's just not needed. I don't feel like it's needed. I don't need the resources. The damage is more than enough for Nightmare 100, and so that's why I'm using the Juggernaut, and then I'll equip this basically for Duriel and Lilith and Malpheus. That's about it. But DR for basically everything except for bossing. So Earth and Bulwark synergizes very well with Tibalt's Will. More DR, more resistances. Don't need any points into Wolves. For Poison Creeper, we're going to go for the 20% crit chance. This is massive. It's only 3 seconds, but a lot of crit chance for those 3 seconds. Enhanced Ravens is going to give us more crit chance on this build. Then we're going down. We're grabbing 3 points into Electric Shock. This is a 21% damage multiplier against immobilized enemies. Remember that we're going for a Primal Lightning Storm so that things are immobilized more often, so we deal more multiplicative damage to them. Envenom, Toxic Claws, no-brainer there. Petrify, I like Supreme Petrify. It's just another button that we can click to get more spirit back. And then we've got 3 points into Defiance, or sorry, 5 out of 3 points for 20% more damage to elites. Natural Disaster, another 12% multiplier to immobilize enemies. Circle of Life 2 is fine here. If you find that you're having issues healing, you could put points here. I haven't found Resonance to be overly worth. We are casting Bulwark, but I'm also spam clicking Lightning Storm, so I'm not getting this Resonance multiplier all that much. So I've got points into Natural Disaster here. And then lastly, we are using Nature's Fury. Now, all of these are great. Ursine Strength is really good for bossing. Ursine Strength is going to give you the best bossing damage. And for some of the Lilith clips, I am using Ursine Strength to deal increased damage to those bosses, because while I'm healthy, I get a 25% damage multiplier. Perfect Storm, not necessary. 1 spirit back per cast is terrible when my Lightning Storm costs 13 per strike. It's just not enough spirit, and the 15% damage multiplier is pretty weak when we have a 25% one here. Earth and Might is a loss of damage when you don't have, or when you have really good gear, you just don't need Earth and Might. Once again, we've got about 84% crit chance on this build, so Earth and Might giving us guaranteed crit chance. It's only giving us like a few actual crit chance, and we don't need the spirit. So once again, once we're in the perfect endgame setup, we no longer need Earth and Might. Nature's Fury is really good because it's going to give us that extra survivability. We can put the aspect on our boots, which gives us a symbiotic. When we're proccing this, whenever we're spam clicking Lightning Storm, this doesn't work very well if you're going to hold down Lightning Storm, but when we're spam clicking, then we get Nature's Fury back. That's going to give us Bulwark back. That's going to build up Fortify on us way easier, especially because we've got the Spirit Boon to get Fortify. Now we're getting Fortify very quickly. We're getting Earth and Bulwark back very quickly, and that's going to be giving us more sources of Unstoppable, which gives us more survivability and more damage with Retaliation. So I like this a lot. For bossing, I will grab Ursine, but for like Nightmare Dungeons, this is great, and you don't really need to change anything on your boots if you're swapping. And that is the skill tree. For the Paragon board, my board is almost identical to the one that I posted on maxroll, which I need to update. The big changes are, one, we're armor capped without these armor nodes. I'm pretty sure I grabbed all of these armor nodes in the maxroll version just because I didn't know how broken Juggernaut was going to be. So no longer need these armor nodes. That's great. And the other thing that I changed is I was originally spec'd into Heightened Malice with Tempest Roar and all these Lightning Storms. This is great. It's a massive damage multiplier for mobbing. The issue is we don't have any issues with mobbing. What we do have issues with is single target, or that's where we're really wanting the most amount of damage. So I did change the build slightly to grab Ancestral Guidance. This is proccing 100% of the time. I've tested it because it's up for 5 seconds. In those 5 seconds, we're spending enough spirit for this to stay up. So it's just a 30% damage multiplier. And we can grab the spirit on kill, which is really, really nice in this board. Just another way to gain more spirit back. It just makes the build more comfy. Now, for our actual glyphs in the first board, I've got Territorial. This is going to give me increased damage to close enemies. I usually go for a node, which is going to give me more resistances in this board, something that boosts rare nodes. As you can see, I'm resistance cap, so I don't need that. Then we're going to be moving up to the Heightened Malice board. This is where we've got Earth and Sky, more damage reduction from poisoned enemies and more damage to poisoned enemies, as well as more dex and intelligence. We're grabbing Overturn, more damage to elites, poisoned enemies, Toxic Bane, more damage to poisoned enemies, more poison damage. Then we're going to be going over to the, actually in order, this is the board you want to grab last. So next up, you're going to go into the Inner Beast board. This is where you're going to want to be grabbing, I'm putting the Keeper glyph here. The reason Keeper is so awesome here is it's going to give us more shape-shifting skill damage, which is Lightning Storm, so 42% more Lightning Storm damage, and it's a huge buff to our armor. Just putting this here is giving me 219 armor and 22 more willpower. Fantastic. The Ancestral Guidance here is something. If you're respecking, do not go this board next, because we do not care about getting another 8 max spirit. That's the only thing you're going for here. So go up next to this board. This is the Thunderstruck board. This is where we actually do care about the things. We're gonna want the damage reduction from vulnerable enemies. Fulminates, where I put this glyph, 61% more lightning damage with the lightning damage multiplier. Storm scale damage, we're grabbing Thunderstruck for 60% more damage with our Thunder. I've also grabbed Lightning Resilience. This gives me, these 2 nodes gives me 8% more max life, really nice, and 20% more lightning resistance. That's also great. Then we're coming over to the Lust for Carnage board. This is going to give me our spirit back whenever we're critting. Here, I've got the Electrocution glyph. And we're also going to be grabbing Feral for the werewolf skill damage, willpower. And this works out perfectly because I don't need to spend a whole bunch of points in this. I'm literally just pathing normally to Lust for Carnage, and this works out. And then you're going to want to come and grab this board. This, I'm putting Spirit for the more crit damage and the crit multipliers that we're going to get. This is also perfect because we can just grab over here, get a bunch of more max life and dexterity, and then Ancestral Guidance board. This, we're going to get our spirit back on kill, and Ancestral Guidance is going to give us that damage multiplier. If you want even more spirit back on kill, you could grab these 2 nodes if you're really keen on them. That will make the build even more comfy, but right now, as I said, I've got level 4 resource. I'm not having spirit issues when I'm killing mobs, so I didn't grab those, but you could if you needed them. Mainly here for this massive damage multiplier. And that is our Paragon board. That is going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed, guys. I will catch y'all in the next one. Be sure to check out the written version of this guide if you're looking for a little bit more explanation on things. I did my best to my abilities during this video. I will catch y'all in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.